Hi, Kelly George again on the MS and relapse and all the vlogs that I'm doing. So this is my second video. In my first one, I basically told you who I am, gave you a back history on me and why I'm doing these videos, and then also just very slight information on how I received the information myself about being told that I had multiple sclerosis in hospital. So my next couple of questions kind of follow that, and I'm currently in hospital at the moment, so that's why I'm looking at the door in case doctors and nurses come in and I've got to stop the video. So my questions that followed MS was, why have I got it? Have I done something to give myself it? Is it hereditary? I've already got a 2-year-old. Will she get it? Can I have more children in the future? Will I be on daily meds for the rest of my life? Am I going to get worse? So many questions. The only stuff I knew about it really was it was more for someone in their 40s and 50s that might end up in a wheelchair, and I was currently diagnosed at the age of 33 with it. So quite a lot of questions really. No, it doesn't run in my family. No one in my family has got it, and I must admit it was quite shocking to have to tell my mum. That was quite painful. Bless her, she thought it might have been something that she did even in the pregnancy and carrying me. Was it something she did then as to why I've got it in me now? Apparently, from what I can understand and what I can interpretate, I am no doctor, obviously, or neurologist at all, but from what I've interpreted from conversations that I've had with people that work in the practice, is that it kind of lies dormant in you. You have it in you, a bit like a cold sore kind of thing in your system. You have it in you, and at one point it will flare up. You don't know when and you don't know how. There are triggers for flare-ups, and they call them relapses or attacks. The triggers can be stress, which I've noticed seems to be when I tend to have a relapse, or tiredness and fatigue, and that is actually one of the common symptoms of ongoing and knowing that you've got multiple sclerosis is fatigue all the time. And then another trigger can actually be, too much alcohol, really. From what I've read since being diagnosed, keeping yourself quite healthy and strong and fit is only a good thing. And obviously, I'm quite a clean eater anyway. If you've seen my first vlog, I gave you a bit of history on me, and always done a bit of dancing and healthy eating. So hopefully that all goes in my favour and keeps me strong for the rest of my life. I was hoping that would prevent attacks and relapses, but it doesn't necessarily prevent them, but it might keep you stronger during them. So a lot of those questions were answered, and hopefully I've answered some just by doing this now for you. I was really worried about having more children and will they get it? Is it hereditary? As I said, it's not hereditary in my family. Nobody's got it on either side. We don't know why I've got it. Then I got explained it might be in my genes and it's flared up. My children can't necessarily get what I've got. It doesn't mean 100% they've got it and they will have it, and it's often diagnosed in women higher than men. Men do get it, and I've heard that in men's cases they can be affected by it a lot worse. But the most common diagnosis of it is in women in their 30s. Now, going back to the children's issue, will my children reach their 30s and then have it? Who knows, unless they suffer some kind of attack or relapse. I have done a lot of research, and vitamin D, or as the Americans would say, because I'm in an American hospital right now, vitamin D is extremely important, and I know in the UK we do not get enough. I had my levels checked after I got diagnosed with multiple sclerosis, and they were low. Then I found out that taking my 2-year-old for her 2-year-old health check, they're now advising all tiny toddlers at 2 years plus to start taking vitamin D supplements all the time, and that's just from age 2 up. We do not have enough vitamin D. You can get it from, good sources of food and protein and oily fish, or also supplements, obviously, over the chemist counters, that kind of thing. Even supermarkets at home. Vitamin D is so important. This leads me to America and why we're doing a massive life-changing move here. Going back to the children can't get what I've got. It could be diagnosed in their 30s and they might have it. If I subject my little ones now, between toddler age, so a very young age, for a couple of years, if they get a really good amount of vitamin D exposed to them 20 minutes a day, then I can whack the cream on and make sure that you're sensible and you don't kind of be lackadaisical on the fact that you're not giving them protection against the sun or the daylight hours. But 20 minutes a day unprotected is fine, and then whack on the cream after that. 20 minutes a day for little ones at young age, I have been advised, will reduce their chances of possibly getting the MS strain of what mummy has by 70%. 70 could possibly decrease their chances of getting it when they're older. It's huge. I didn't want my children to live off vitamin D supplements by living in the UK 1 minute longer, because I've got to do that, and I don't want to have to start giving them a load of vitamin D. Because we were in a fortunate position with our company and our business, we thought, where can we move our business to in the world where it will succeed and work? There's levels of high vitamin D all year round, and there's no language barrier, and basically we can move there and still come home a lot and visit the UK. So that brings us to California. I'm currently on relapse number 3 because we have just moved here, so it's been a stressful move. Oh, trigger, stress. Just had a baby, he's 17 weeks. Oh, trigger, fatigue. So I'm currently suffering relapse number 3, and that's what ends me up in a Californian hospital over here in Encinitas in San Diego, California. So that was one of my questions. Can my children get it, and what can I do to improve their chances in the future? Another question was the whole wheelchair thing. How disabled will I get? I know I'm a lucky person, personally. I think so. That's my take on it. If I'm older and I was diagnosed with MS, and you might be watching this and you have, 20 years ago or even 10 years ago, there weren't the resources and information about how to tackle it. What is this kind of random disease that comes and goes and flares up and goes away, and how do you deal with it, and how do you treat yourself? So a lot of older people that I would say older than the age of, I don't know, 45, 50 plus, that were diagnosed with MS 10, 20 years ago might be suffering different symptoms to what I am now. I've got incredible information available to me, and the doctors and the researchers looking into multiple sclerosis every single day. New stuff's coming out all the time in newspapers, magazines, articles, media sites. There's so much, and that's why I know more about vitamin D being so helpful. My first attack in May 2015, so a year and a half ago, the treatment I was given was steroids, quite intense steroids. I think they were about 10 in strength for 5 days. They didn't know, one of my answers was, when will I get this, my frozen face feeling back? They didn't know, they couldn't answer that. Time will tell, and that's a massive thing with multiple sclerosis. It's all about time. You don't know how quickly you're going to recover. It's entirely up to your body and how fit and healthy a person you are, I suppose, has a lot to do with it. That's a guess. I didn't know how long my attack would last, if I would ever get feeling back, how I would react to the steroids. Steroids are strong. You can get funny side effects from steroids as well. You can have to take alternative medicine to counterbalance the side effects you could have. There's all kinds of things. So you kind of feel like you're rattling around when you go home with all your meds. Luckily, my medication kicked in, and I actually got feeling back in my face within about, I think it was about 6 to 8 weeks. Frozen face, I started creeping in, and I could feel things. I could feel touch, I could feel heat, I could feel stuff on the back of my head. If I slept on my pillow at night, I could feel the pillow touching my head. It was a massive relief, and even though on the outside I looked okay, I knew that I could do all my expressions and feel like me when I was talking on the phone to people, because I could feel my face was moving, which was really, really good. Even though it was moving and people on the outside could still see that, I couldn't feel it was moving myself. So I reacted well to steroid treatment. When I got diagnosed with multiple sclerosis and the steroids were issued, I learned that the protocol is that you get given details of a local neurologist, and you perhaps see that neurologist as regularly as possible, and they update you. Depends how good the hospital treat you with that. I have been passed from pillar to post, but that's a different story. We won't go into that. And then also you get given a MS specialist nurse. Now this is great. This is your point of contact, and she is or he would be your go-to person. They actually come to the house if you are struggling to leave the house, because MS cannot just affect your face and your head like it did in my case. It can affect your hip. It can affect your eyesight, your hearing, your leg could be completely out. And that's why you hear these stories about ending up in a wheelchair, and people having a stick and having to use that for the rest of their life, and managing, you know, on a kind of more disabled level to what I found that I wasn't as disabled as others could be, suffering from multiple sclerosis. So you get given an MS nurse. She or he is your point of contact, and you can ask them a lot of questions and see them quite regularly. That I found extremely helpful, and I would call upon Margaret whenever I had any questions, and when I was asked about possibly moving countries, and vitamin D, is it a big thing? And then, is there preventative treatment? So if I react well to the steroids and they do clear it up, is it gone forever? Will it come back in the same place? So So many questions. I believe that it can't necessarily come back in the same place, but a nearby place on your body. I keep doing this because it's always been in this area for me, but for a lot of people, it's anywhere in the body. Will I get better? So even though I feel better and the steroids seem to have worked, will I have another MRI to prove that? Not necessarily, but you can push for one, and you can do that for your MS point of contact and say that I'm not feeling great. Can we please have another MRI to check this out? Has it completely gone away? I don't know. So many questions. I think I'm going to have to do that in a couple of different blogs, but hopefully I filled you in on a little bit of all of my questions. And if you've got any, please post them on this that I'm going to be putting out on YouTube, and I might just kind of answer it like that way. Otherwise there'll be so many vlogs to go through. But I reacted well to the steroids. That was my first attack last year. I got feeling back in my face. I got an MS nurse as a point of contact, and then found out from there that there's two types of MS you can have, relapsing, remitting, and something else. I'm not sure of the other one. You could probably tell me if you're suffering from it. I think one is a downward spiral and you don't get better, and you feel more increasing symptoms and you do get worse and you do have to keep on some kind of treatment, or the one where I did recover and I felt a lot better, and then you can have an attack then. You don't know when. It could be in 20 years' time. Brilliant. Way hey. Or it could be next year. Or it could be in 5 months. Or it could be in 50 years. You know, you can go years and years without one. So that might be the type of MS that I believe that I've got, because I recovered well from my first relapse, my first attack. I hope this video has been helpful.